Deja vu. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do we already know one another?
You don't know me.
I know. You wake every night from a painful dream you never had.
Lucy Chambers, a social worker, has a unique ability to recollect the future, a sensation she likens to déjà vu. In the future, Lucy is shown sitting in an interrogation room with Gideon, a murderer who claims to know her and understand what she's going through. Back in the present, it's 3:33 a.m., and Lucy has had another dream of her mom attempting suicide. Unable to go back to sleep, she heads over to the kitchen for a drink and is startled by her placid son, Isaac, standing and staring into the kitchen. The next morning, she takes him to see Dr. Bennett, the seventh psychiatrist they're seeing for Isaac's condition. There, Lucy explains her son imagines people and doesn't laugh, cry, get mad, or scared. After the psychiatrist's evaluation, Lucy takes Isaac to school before going to her office. There, she meets Shane Fisher, a man accused of domestic abuse and threats on his daughter's life. As Lucy reminds him of his restraining order against his wife and daughter, she gets one of her recollections and sees Shane killing his daughter. Meanwhile, detectives Ravi and Nick investigate the murder of Harold Slade, a pedophile who'd been abusing his own daughters. The detectives get a new lead after Slade's neighbor had seen the killer's car drive away. As they track the car, they find that the same killer might have appeared in another case regarding a missing child named Jonah Taylor. Finally, they find a car with a bad tire at a roadside and spot a guest house key in it. Using the key, they trace the killer to a cheap hotel in the vicinity. Meanwhile, Lucy gets a call from Chloe, Shane's wife, telling her that Shane has shown up on her door drunk and aggressive. As soon as the connection ends, Lucy hurries over to Chloe's house, frightened that her visions might come to pass. Concurrently, detectives Ravi and Nick, who have been searching the empty hotel room, find evidence of a few murders and a picture of Chloe's house with that day's date on it. They also find a writing in the room asking for Lucy Chambers. At the same time, Lucy shows up at Chloe's house, only to find Shane dead instead of his daughter, like her visions depicted. In the future, Gideon tells Lucy he'd been part of the crowd in Shane's house when the cops came to take the body away. He admits having been searching for her for a while, and that he's got things to tell her. In the present, Nick and Ravi bring in the evidence from the hotel room in search of details that could help them nail the killer. When they narrow their search down, they learn the killer has been after someone named Lucy Chambers, and is still searching for her. Later that day, during dinner, Lucy talks to Isaac about Meredith Warren, the new neighbor's daughter, and he tells her, to her shock, that Meredith's family also live in their house too. The next morning, Lucy visits the Warrens under the guise of welcoming them, though she really wants to find a connection between Isaac and Meredith, since her son seems to talk about her all the time. After asking Debbie, Meredith's mom, questions aimed at finding out if Meredith and Isaac have been seeing each other before now, and getting nothing, she goes into Meredith's room and finds her son's favorite toy in there. In the future, Gideon tries to help Lucy with her visions, but she turns down his help and leaves. However, she stops when he tells her he can answer her questions about Isaac. Back in the present, Nick and Ravi finally find the right Lucy Chambers and head over to her house. When Lucy and Isaac return home from their visit to the Warrens, they find the back door open. However, Lucy's relieved to find it's only Mike, her ex-husband, and sends Isaac to his room while she talks with Mike. During their conversation, Lucy discovers to her shock that Mike had come in from the front door and that someone else might be in the house with them. Immediately, her mind goes to her son, and she runs upstairs. Only to find him missing. In the future, Lucy asks Gideon why he took her son. Gideon denies having kidnapped Isaac, even though Lucy insists. Frustrated, she leaves the room to meet Ravi, who warns her about Gideon. In the present, Ravi and Nick show Lucy pictures of Slade and Shane, and she gets one of her visions, seeing a house and violin belonging to Slade, and the bodies of his daughters tied up and discarded. Ravi tells her Slade's dead and asks if she knew him, but Lucy, still a bit confused from the vision, says she doesn't know. After that, Ravi shares some of the evidence they got from the killer's hotel room, and Lucy finds it has Isaac's name and a drawing of his broken wristwatch, which she also finds missing when she looks for it. Afterward, Ravi and Nick leave, promising to search for Isaac. Still disturbed by her vision on Slade, who she's certain she's never seen before, Lucy decides to confirm if the vision is indeed true. She locates Slade's home, learns he has a violin, and gets details about a secret house from his safe using details from her vision. As soon as she leaves Slade's, she sends Ravi the address, asking that they meet there. However, upon receiving the address, Ravi realizes a sketch of the said house under a written address is also in the evidence box, and tries to warn her against going. But Lucy ignores him. Just then, Lucy receives a call telling her that Sylvia, her mom, who has dementia, is missing. Already knowing where she'd be found, Lucy finds her and both leave for Slade's secret home. On getting there, she leaves her mom in the car and goes into the house. Nick and Ravi, who have already begun searching the house shortly before she came in, have found Isaac's wristwatch on the property. Using her visions, Lucy also helps find a room with a dollhouse and a camera, and pictures of Slade with his daughters. Meanwhile, Sylvia leaves the car and wanders into the woods, where she finds Isaac and returns him to Lucy. Upon reunion, Isaac embraces his mother and cries for the first time. In the future, Gideon tells Lucy no one took Isaac. Then it's shown in a different timeline that the Warrens find Isaac in Meredith's room. Ravi rewatches footage of Isaac's interview, where he tells them a man took him away from the room because it wasn't his, and brought him to the woods, saying Lucy would come find him. While out for work, Lucy and her colleague Rob visit a woman named Kate to ask for her teenage son, Aiden, who's not been seen for days. Kate directs her to Aiden's friend Mia. When Kate steps out, Lucy looks around and finds balloons that have been used to inhale drugs. Upon touching one of them, she gets a vision of Aiden dead. When Lucy then takes pictures, Kate shows up and angrily attacks her. As Kate attacks, Lucy gets flashes of Gideon killing Aiden and instinctively manages to subdue Kate. Later that night, Ravi visits Lucy to hand over footage of Isaac's interview. Curious, he asks her how she knew so much about the Slade case, and she tells him she remembers things even though she's never been there. As Ravi leaves, Lucy enlists his help in searching for Aiden. Meanwhile, as Isaac lays plates out on the dining table, he sees the Warrens doing the same right there in the room, but they don't see him. Nick and Ravi find Mia's, but don't see Aiden. After seeing Mia in a room with several guys, the detectives find it suspicious and decide to hold a stakeout. While doing that, they witness Mia getting assaulted by one of the guys. So Nick moves in with a crowbar, and Ravi follows. Together, they rescue Mia and round up some boys who interfere. When Lucy visits Mia, she gets info on Aiden's location. Simultaneously, Ravi does too after seeing Aiden's name on a piece of paper, gotten from the killer's room. Having found him, Lucy saves Aiden from getting killed by a man in a car. When Ravi sees the car leaving the premises, he follows it on a hunch. But the car stops, and Gideon steps out, warning Ravi away and telling him it's important Aiden dies. In the future, Gideon tells Lucy and Ravi they're to blame for what happened after the storm. Back in the present, the owner of the drug operation Nick broke into when he went to save Mia sends Aiden to kill Nick. When Ravi arrives at Nick's, he finds him and his wife dead and learns Aiden's responsible. Meanwhile, it's revealed Isaac and Sylvia suffer the same abnormal condition. While returning from Isaac's appointment with Dr. Bennett, Meredith runs in front of Lucy's car, forcing her to stop. When Lucy goes to tell the Warrens about it, she finds Meredith at home in different clothing and leaves confused. When they get home, Ravi's there with news of Nick's death, and Lucy blames herself for saving Aiden. Then, she tells Ravi about the killer even though she's never met him. Later that night, at 3:33 a.m., like every other night, Lucy wakes up from a dream where an older version of herself visited Gideon in prison and got his name. Then, she Googles him and finds out he killed his dad and left his home as a kid. Immediately, she calls Ravi, sharing what she's found, and they go to see Malcolm, Gideon's brother. On the way, she remembers herself getting wed. When they arrive at Malcolm's, he plays them a voicemail Gideon had sent him on his birthday, and they listen to the voicemail again on their way back. They pick out the sound of a train's horn, implying that Gideon had made the call close to a track. So Ravi agrees to search around the track areas in the city. When Ravi finds Gideon's location, he tells Lucy he's going after him, but she warns him, having envisioned him beaten to a pulp. However, when Ravi insists, Lucy goes as well. When Ravi gets there, he tries to keep Gideon from killing a boy he'd kidnapped for being a serial rapist in another timeline, but fails. As they fight, Gideon beats Ravi and tries to leave in his car, but Lucy rams into the car, knocking him unconscious. Then, she calls an ambulance. Later at home, Lucy's having dinner with Mike and Isaac when Ravi calls to tell her Gideon's refused to speak with anyone but her. When she meets him, Gideon decides to tell them why he killed his dad. After it's shown that Gideon's dad has killed him and Malcolm frequently in many lifetimes because their mother cheated on him, Gideon tells Ravi and Lucy that he began remembering his past life each time he returned. So, he killed his father to keep it from happening. Afterward, he tells them he keeps records of tragedies that occur in every lifetime and tries to keep them from happening in his next lifetime, even killing possible criminals when he can't change them. During a break, Lucy tells Ravi that following Gideon's account, he may have taken Isaac because someone would hurt him. When they return to the interrogation room, they ask Gideon about Jonah Taylor, and he tells them he took Jonah because his parents were going to kill him. When they ask where he is, he tells them he's being taken care of by Evelyn, a friend with abilities similar to his, who he'd saved from an accident. Afterward, he tells Lucy he's waited 25 years for her, then asks about the worst thing she's ever experienced. Lucy remembers dreaming of her mother's death and tells him about it. Then he confesses she asked him in another life to stop it from happening, and that's why she's still alive in this lifetime. Noticing that Lucy is taking to Gideon's words, Ravi tries to get to her, but she locks him out. Gideon then reveals that in another timeline she's married, but not to Mike. Furthermore, he sheds light on their abilities, saying while they can remember events from a different time, Isaac can move and experience different times at the same time because he's an anomaly that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, back at Lucy's home, Mike spills beer on Isaac, blaming him for ruining his marriage. Isaac in turn goes to his room, taking Mike's phone with him. Then, he places his wet clothing on the heater to dry while he calls his mom, telling her he loves her and she should come home. Back in the interrogation room, Lucy leaves Gideon when she doesn't believe his words about Isaac, and Gideon is taken away. However, when she gets home, she finds their home on fire after Mike deliberately ignored Isaac's clothing on the heater and left the boy in the house. As Lucy goes after Isaac, she realizes that the pictures burning belong to the Warrens instead of hers. Then, she sees herself in a timeline where she's married to Ravi and is the detective on Gideon's case. Suddenly, she finds herself in front of the same house that's supposed to be hers. But here, the Warrens are the ones being rescued from the fire. Simultaneously, in the timeline Lucy's just left, Ravi discovers that Gideon has escaped.
Detective chambers.
Did they get everyone out?
Looks that way. They're treating the mother for burns. Is everything all right, Mom?
It's nothing, just a feeling. Deja vu.